As we look at Section 4 in Chapter 12, we're going to be preparing payroll checks. And those payroll checks and the information that we're getting are going to be from the previous sections. You're going to see on this first page that we are taking money from the general account for the business and transferring this amount that is for the payroll into a specific payroll account. There are many checks that are processed because of paying payroll in different businesses. Some businesses have a lot of employees, some of them have few. And so as you look at the next page, what you're going to see is you're going to see the paycheck stub as well as the check itself. And it is going to detail out all the things that relate to this specific employee. You're going to see on the left-hand side here, you're going to see the amounts of gross pay. It is based on the regular hours being at the regular rate and overtime hours being at the overtime rate of $15 times 1.5 rather. And so when you do that, you get the $22.50, and then you will multiply that out to get the current earnings. Now year to date I will cover in the work together. Year to date will be all of the accumulated earnings up to that point and then adding the current total earnings there. As you look on the right hand side, you're going to see the deductions here are going to include the federal income tax, which is from the tables. Social Security tax is 0.062. When you multiply it, Medicare is 0.0145. And if they choose to do anything beyond the normal taxes, they may have other things deducted such as health insurance, retirement, bonds, various other things that will benefit them as they get older and as they eventually retire. So as you see, the totals here are going to be the list of the things above where it says totals. It's going to be totaling what is above there. Year to date is something I'll cover again later. And then net pay, you're going to see, is going to be the difference between year to date earnings, or regular earnings rather, the total earnings for current minus the total deductions for current. That will give you the current net pay. I'll explain that column later. So when you figure that out, the amount of the check is going to be the net pay amount that I just pointed out. So you can see all the different things. It goes into detail down here at the bottom of the page, but I will also go into that as we do the work together. As we flip to the next page, you're going to see what is a direct deposit check, or rather a simulation of the check that is just a picture of it that gives you all the detail as an employee, but directly deposits your check into your banking account. And so this is what I have done. The reason you get this check in your box or in your mail or in your email is because you need to know all of this information, because if your paycheck winds up not turning out to be the balance that you expected when you get paid over here, then you're going to want to go back and take a look and see if anything looks different than it should. And that's why they disclose all this information at the top, because you have a right to know where your money's going. And so as we look at the work together, we're going to be looking at several things here. We're going to use our payroll register from work together to 12.3. We're going to have and write a blank general account check. Goodness, problems with words. We're going to have 2 blank payroll account checks and the prior period pay stubs for each employee. And I'm going to guide you through those things as we talk through them. We're going to prepare Judy's Fashion's general account check for the pay period ended July 15th, 20, whatever year that you are in. The payment date is July 15th. Prepare the check to the order of the First Community Bank. The payroll account number is, and sign your name as the manager of Judy's Fashions. So as I flip this open to our work together page, you are going to see that this information is going to be from the payroll register. So we're first of all going to look at that register And if we are looking at the register based on July 15th, you are going to see that the total here is going to be the $1933.32. Okay, so as we look at our work together, you are going to see that our information is based on that payroll register. So you're pulling the information based on the information given by completion of the payroll register itself. So as you proceed through this chapter, you'll need to look at these things. First Community Bank, the date is at the top. You have the description right here and the amount we pulled from that payroll register, the date, the amount, and this is written out in words. Things to note that may or may not be different if you've already had finance. If you take it from me and if you take accounting, my expectation is that you're going to elevate the amount of the cents, put a line, and put either 100 or X's indicating that those two numbers are indeed cents and not dollars. People try to do all sorts of things to manipulate checks to their advantage and benefit, to fraudulently steal from you. So we want to do everything we can to prevent that from happening. So as you look at the next line, we're going to have the amount of the money written out in dollars, written out in words rather. The word "and" represents the decimal place, and then again our cents will be over 100. You will need to draw a line, straight or crooked, doesn't matter to me, to indicate that nobody can put any additional information there to possibly change or alter this check. It has the information for the paid to the order of, including the payroll account number, and then you as the student are going to be the accounting clerk or the payroll secretary for this business. As we look at the second part of this particular work together, we want to complete the payroll checks for the pay period of July 15th, 20, the current year. The payment date is July 15th. Sign your name as the manager of Judy's Fashions. Record the two payroll check numbers in the payroll register. So that's where we will get these numbers that are right here in the final column of Work Together 12.3 on the payroll register. And I'm going to give this to you and explain it to you as you copy it. You may need to pause this if you're only looking at it from the video. So I will do my best to make this as efficient as possible. On this left side, you're going to see the things that we've already talked about. You're going to see the hourly rate. You're going to see the rate of overtime, which is 15 times 1.5, which is 1.5 times, because you work harder when you do overtime. And as you get older, you need to be paid more for what you do, especially if it's beyond the 40-hour work week. So you're going to see they calculated regular, overtime, and then they added those two to get the total earnings. Now, we do not have the previous year-to-date earnings. That's why they are giving that to us there. Going to the right side, you're going to have the date. You're also going to see the employee name there on the left. On the right, you're going to see the federal income tax, Social Security, Medicare, health insurance, and retirement. Adding those up, those will be right there. This year to date, they are giving it to us because we don't have the previous check stub. So they've given us all these numbers and added them together here. Now, where do these numbers come from that are on the next row? Because I've got a lot marked here. Remember that current total earnings minus current total deductions is going to equal your net pay. So I don't know if you can tell the difference in the color of the ink, but this is green, indicating that from this number I am going to subtract and get the total of this right here. When you look at the year to date, this will come from the previous year to date deductions, and then you will add the current year to date deductions. And we're going to actually go through this on this next page, on the next section. So as we look at our right side of this document and the bottom half of this, what we are going to do is we are going to calculate this based on the current payroll. So when you look back at our payroll record for Edward Johnson, it gives you the regular and the overtime, and then it tells you all these deductions. And these things are coming from this payroll register right here. Oops, sorry, it wasn't on the screen. So you're looking at the earnings right here, okay? And then you're looking at the deductions right here in these 5 columns totaling that number. And then net pay will be the $1186.91. So when we look at this on this portion of the page and on this paycheck stub, again, you're going to have the employee's name, you're going to have the date or the period of time that is being covered and then paid for their work. You're going to calculate these things or literally copy them from the other document and get that number, get all of these numbers from where we just looked on the payroll register. And then because we have the year-to-date up at the top, we will add 522 plus 61 to get the 583 and so forth. Social Security year-to-date, current, updated, all the way down this column. And then what we want to do is look at our totals right here on this row. For this one, it's already complete. We'll come back to that. On this total and this total, it's a little bit different because when we're looking at the year-to-date for deductions, we have to take this number that is the deductions amount, $2739.18, plus the current to get an updated year-to-date because this total for this column is right there. Now, going to the bottom row for this, we are looking at the 17,218 even and adding the 1432.50 to get to the 18,650.50, and that's what I have on my sheet. You can kind of see it there. On the other side, where we're looking at deductions, net pay, and year-to-date, we are looking at this amount for the net pay to be the total earnings. Remember, that's interchangeable with total gross pay minus the total deductions. So we're looking at 1432.50 minus 245.59. Okay, so this plus sign is another thing I'm going to tell you about. I actually already did related to that, so ignore that. Total deductions are 245.59, so when we subtract that, that gets you the 1186.91. How do we verify that is correct? When we go back over here to this, we are going to see that 11,681 on the far right column here is going to be the correct amount of net pay. So the payroll register really serves 2 reasons. One, to get the information, and then you can also verify that information. So now we go to the last number on here, and we are looking at the net pay accumulated through the entire year. This is where we have to go back to the previous year-to-date on the previous paycheck stub, add it to the current net earnings to get the 15,665.73. And so by doing that, all of this information is current and up to date. Write down whatever notes you need to. Feel free to pause this and copy this information at your pace. And then finally, at the bottom, it has you on this particular employee, have you write a check, the date, the name, the amount, as we've talked about the formatting earlier with the X's or 100s, and then 1,186 and 91 100ths, and draw a line to the end with a pen. Okay, your signature as the employee. All right, so then we go to our next employee, and we pull that from our payroll register as well. This will be for Janice Nelson. You'll see the information for earnings right there. You'll see the information for deductions right here and net pay. So as we flip over, you are going to simply copy that information or basically program that information, if it's computerized, to where it pulls those numbers from the payroll register. If you're doing it by hand, you're doing it exactly like we're doing it today. So depending on the business that you're in, will determine whether you have to do it by hand or whether it's computerized and computer generated. Either way, you should be able to know where to find this information. So remember, federal income tax is from the tables. Social Security is 6.2%, 1.45% for Medicare, and these things are going to be based on the information the employee and or the HR department gives you, based on their enrollments in insurance, retirement, bonds, deductions, contributions to United Way, etc. On the left side, you'll see the gross pay is calculated. Again, you can double check that by just copying it from your payroll register. Same thing for your current deductions added together is already on the payroll register. Year to date, again, we will be using the previous numbers up here to calculate the current. So we have 892 plus 76 will give you 968. 736.10 plus 60.25 gives you 796.35, and so on down that column. Lastly, as we come to these 3 or 4 numbers that are not calculated yet, we'll take that 2,725 plus the 225.34 to get 2925.59. And then finally, net pay, you will have the 9172.25, adding that to get 9918.66. Last thing on our left side, we will take our net pay year-to-date total earnings, not net pay, gross pay, on this amount, and then add it to the current total earnings to give you the year-to-date total earnings. Now, as I showed you on the last page, but I didn't necessarily state it, you need to make sure, as I've taught you all along, that as you look at anything in accounting or that involves numbers of any kind, you need to denote if it is in dollars or euros or whatever the denomination of currency is to verify that we're talking about US dollars. So in this case, we put a dollar sign at the top on all 3 of these, a dollar sign at the bottom on all of those, and that is just standard for what the expectation is. You'll see our date, the person's name, the amount over the X's or 100s. You'll see the written form of the number with our cents in the 41/100 marking here. Our decimal place is represented by the word and then you sign your name as the manager of this business. So that concludes what we've done in section 4, and we will be working on our applications and our mastery soon.